Hello there, my very good friends. Andy Murray here, filling in for Simon Miller during his well-earned break. We're really going through the bald guy Russian dolls this week, aren't we? You start with a lovely bald man with the huge muscles in Simon. You go to the equally lovely bald man with the big muscles, Gareth, who did Raw. And then you get to me, a kind of okay bald man with no muscles and a physique that is more akin to marshmallows. But hey, maybe we'll have to do something a little bit different at the weekend. But we're going to talk about AEW Dynamite. It was a good episode of AEW Dynamite. Let's have some fun with it. As you know, up is good. Look, we got the colours in the studio and everything. It's a good time. Up is good, down is bad. The eel is here. He's really slimy. I've got a double espresso in case it all gets a little bit too much. Let's do it. Alright, so this television show started off with Chris Jericho and Daniel Garcia versus Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli. This is a long-running storyline. Various versions of this have been floating around basically for a year. If you can include all the Eddie Kingston stuff and factor everything in, different versions, different combinations of people. Here we are on TV, we're having this tag match and we're opening the show with it. Last week, of course, we had the interesting stuff with the tension between Wheeler Yuta and Bryan Danielson, and everyone's pissed, everyone's angry, everyone's all of this. And this was a really great way to open the show. This was tremendous stuff across the board. I mean, praising one individual component of it is kind of tough, because when you do that, sometimes people go, what about the other dudes? So I mean, this is no disrespect whatsoever to the other participants, but my gosh, was Claudio Castagnoli great in this or what? For me, this was one of his most impressive AEW performances to date, and think of the ground that covers. The man is not a human being, and he was absolutely outrageous here, catching people out of the sky, transitioning into holds you shouldn't be able to do, running around the ring at 400 miles an hour, decking everyone, hitting uppercuts. I thought this was an incredible Claudio Castagnoli performance. Don't get me wrong, I thought everyone was good, but Claudio in particular was just tremendous, and it was quite appropriate as well, because he pinned Chris Jericho clean, the Ring of Honor World Champion. That's kind of a big booking deal. Of course, it was Jericho who cheated his way past Claudio Castagnoli, that scamp of a man, to take the Ring of Honor World title in the first place. So here we are, nice seeing Claudio getting a measure of revenge. And look, of course, when we're talking about a match that has William Regal, his Blackpool Combat Club, hanging about, he's going to be on commentary. I can't not mention his relationship with Excalibur, which is just the most delightful, warming, lovely thing in the universe. It gets me every time. This week he said, "You little creme brulee, I'd like to crack you and just let you melt in me." Very good, William, you saucy man, you. Him and the man in the mask, man. When's the wedding? I want the invite. But before I sign an up or down to this, we should probably go backstage as well, right? We've got Renee Paquette for the first time this very evening. She's interviewing Bryan Danielson. He's there. He's touching on a bunch of different things. And basically, he's got the match with Sammy coming up ahead. He's frustrated. Wheeler Yuta talk back to him, all of that stuff. Well, who walks in but Wheeler and Claudio, fresh off their victory. Wheeler's happy that Bryan Danielson's pissed, because that's what he wanted him. He wanted him to care. But there's still a little bit of tension coming between those guys. Fortunately, Claudio and William Regal kind of get in between them before it gets too physical, before it gets too fraught with tension. You'd imagine that we're heading towards Yuta versus Danielson at the pay-per-view. That would be a very good match, of course. Look at who's involved in it. Of course, it wouldn't suck. That should be a fun time. The story they're telling here is the kind of thing that I'm definitely into. Complicated interpersonal dynamics in a stable. It's all good stuff. Who knows what's next for Claudio, man. I don't necessarily think he needs a shot at Jericho's belt or anything like that. I don't think you need to run that one back, but if they did, it would probably be fun. Either way, he got the big win over Jericho. These guys are going to have a match at the pay-per-view. Hopefully it'll be the kind of affair where it's competitive and they hug it out or shake hands or whatever, but it's a good stuff. This whole deal, the match, the segment, it's getting it up. Let's move on. Interestingly, after that, it's the Elite. They're on the show. They're back in AEW. Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks are sort of here. They ran this segment, and it was very interesting the way they put this together. They did the Thanos kind of gimmick. They disappeared in the middle of a bunch of stuff. It was like, I don't know, like a minute long or something. A bunch of highlights from the Elite's time in AEW. They had some press conference stuff from before the company launched. They had some in-ring successes. They faded away. Their voices faded away. It's all very spooky until we get to the AEW logo. It's on the screen. The A fades away. You can't have AEW without the Elite. So I guess the promotion is now called All Wrestling. But yes, no, good stuff. It's really nice to know, and they haven't announced anything yet, obviously, but it's nice to know seemingly that the Elite are on their way back. Overwhelmingly, I feel a bit sad about this whole situation regarding everyone involved, to be honest. I don't want to start some big argument about Punk versus the Elite or whatever. I just want the people whose work I enjoy back on TV, and for everyone to be friends and to be producing good work. So, even though this was a short segment, and we don't usually go into this level of detail or whatever, with those shorter segments, it's such a big permutation coming out of this that I have to give it an up. Sorry, the green light's over here. I'm a bit rusty. I've never done this before. Let me be. From there, we go backstage with the Jericho Appreciation Society and Tony Schiavone's terrible microphone that doesn't really work. This was kind of a weird thing production-wise. Tony's microphone sucked. It kept cutting out and being weird. There was like a boom mic you could see creeping into the camera shot, but you know, I'm not going to nitpick. I'm not going to be too harsh on the whole thing. The gist of it was the Jericho Appreciation Society are pissed. Daddy Magic is yelling because of course he is. What a great human being he is. Chris Jericho is so pissed. He's doing an open challenge next week. Former Ring of Honor champion, come and fight me guy. Sammy Guevara does some yelling about Bryan Danielson as well, fighting him later on, of course. Good little backstage segment, sets up the next thing for Jericho, gets some words from Sammy on the match, Daddy Magic being awesome, good, cool. After that, however, someone I'm going to talk about quite a lot because it was bloody great, FTR versus Swerving Our Glory. Now, the interesting is probably not the word here, but you know, the thing about FTR being number one contenders to the AEW World title has kind of become a meme, hasn't it? They've been in that position for about 6 months. They've not had the shot. They've collected 7 million other tag team championships since then, but now we're finally addressing it. Now they're getting a contendership match. They're fighting Swerve in Our Glory. The winner gets the shot. It's good stuff. It's good storytelling, even if it took a while to get to the point where FTR have the contendership in sight. But yeah, what we got here, man, was just a really, really fun match that played on the styles and dynamics of these two teams. It's a first time ever match, of course, unless I'm forgetting something, which is entirely possible when your brain is made of Swiss cheese. Literally, I could, if I wanted, put the eel in one ear and he would come out the other. I've just done that. I have no brain. I really enjoyed this across the board. It started out with some grindy kind of work from FTR. As you'd expect, they are that classically styled tag team. Swerve in Our Glory opened it up a little bit more. You get Swerve's tricky movements. He comes at you from all kinds of crazy angles and he counters his ways out of situations. You got Keith Lee doing that athletic big man stuff. He was leapfrogging both members of FTR who tried to hit him with the big rig early on. All of this great stuff. But the core thing with Swerve in Our Glory at the moment is, of course, the kind of face-heel dynamic. Swerve at this point is basically just a heel, and he's great at it. He's owning the role. He is kicking ass every single week, taking these shortcuts. And on the other side, you've got big Keith Lee, who's not quite jumping into that side of things. He's still like a good, likable guy who doesn't really know if he thinks all of this stuff is all right or whatever, but he's still profiting from it, and he's still seemingly quite happy to profit from it. In the end, the thing I like most about this dynamic is they're not just like acting and all of this stuff. They're not just doing wacky facial expressions or whatever. It's quite subtle in the way they're playing it. It's not too overt. They're not smacking you over the head with the idea that these guys are kind of operating on separate alignments. So I think it's very interesting, and this was a great match. And the finish comes through that dynamic as well. It's the Guns restraining Cash Wheeler at ringside. Those pesky Guns that were dressed up as FTR. Okay, cool. Fine, sure. I think I kind of love them, to be honest, but there we go. And then we got Dax left alone in the ring. He got beaten up. He got low blowed by Swerve while the referee was a bit distracted by what was going on elsewhere. That allowed Keith to take the advantage, to hit his finisher, score the pinfall. So Swerving Our Glory, we're getting the trilogy now. We're getting a lot out of this, actually, when you think about it. When you sit there and you break it down, obviously, that is the first thing. You're getting that title match, you're getting the trilogy, and the other two matches were really good, especially the first one, which I absolutely bloody loved. So you're getting that. You're also getting FTR versus the Guns, which has been teased for a while, but now you're probably formally gonna get that one happening once again. That's gonna be fun. That's a good time. FTR love the Guns. They're gonna do some good work with them. Then, of course, you potentially have to go back to the FTR situation. When are they gonna get their shot? You can build that up over a longer term as well. So in this simple result, you've given yourselves a bunch of different matches, not just one. Fresh television for months and months to come. I think that's good. I think that's economical. I think these are the kind of details that matter in AEW and indeed in all of wrestling. I'm giving it up. I butchered that sentence. You know what I was trying to say. 3-0, baby. This is a positive day. Let's go. Backstage Soraya with Renee Paquette, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later on. Not that I thought it was necessarily a great or a bad or an anything segment, but something came up in this segment that I'd like to discuss as a point later in the video. So we're going to kind of shelve that one for now. I did kind of like Soraya straight away when Britt Baker came in going, don't start with me, B-I-T-C-H, I'm not in the mood, which kind of acknowledges a trope that we'll cover later on. But after that, it was MJF and Renee Young, who, via the power of teleportation, got backstage to the ring. I'm only joking. I'm not going to make a point about that. The interesting dynamic here, of course, is that she's bringing out MJF, who is, of course, fighting Renee Paquette's other half, Jon Moxley, for the AEW World title at Full Gear. I mean, look, it's MJF, guys. What do you want me to say here? It's the easiest up of the week. Let's just throw that number down there right now, straight away, no messing around. He comes out, man, and he does he does an impression of John. He walks around the ring. He does the strut. He does his voice. Says, "I'm going to drink your blood and gargle your piss." Oh, okay, that's a choice. And then he really goes into it. You know, the big part of this MJF character, apart from calling you poor, obviously, and inexplicably still getting pops for it, is that he takes like bad things he's been through in the past, traumas and disappointments and people's doubts and stuff, and he uses them as fuel, and that's what's made him what he is today, right? That was a big part of his feud with CM Punk earlier in the year. It's a huge part of this feud after the segment with William Regal last week, which was absolutely incredible. And he's doing it again here. He's saying he's taking everything, all these things that have happened to him, and he's building this chip and he's placing it on his shoulder, and he's becoming a stronger version of himself as a consequence of that. It's pro wrestling, man. It's really awesome stuff across the board. It's proof to me that you don't necessarily need this gigantic, elaborate setup for everything. If you do the simple things well, it's going to connect and everyone's going to be into it, and everyone is into it because listen to the reactions this guy's getting. He's unreal. MJF said that all he needs to be a success is a grudge, and he's got a bunch of those he's been saving up, building into that chip on his shoulder. He, of course, wants Jon Moxley at 100%, 110% actually, he said there, at the pay-per-view, so there's no excuses when he wins. Now, this comes after Stokely Hathaway has come back. Of course, we got the disagreement between MJF and the firm the other week when they kind of stepped over the line and attacked Wheeler Yuta and all of that, and MJF was like, I did not tell you to do that. Well, hold on to that for a little while here. When Stokely Hathaway comes out, he gets told, don't do anything later. Stay away from this. Go away. He's wrestling later on. I don't want him injured going into the pay-per-view. More on that later on. But yes, this whole deal's an up. What's that, 4-0? Man, what a good day. Up next, quick promo from the Kingdom. Matt Taven, Maria Kanellis, Mike Bennett, Kanellis, Bennett, Taven. The Kingdom are here, and I really like the Kingdom, so even though this was a short segment, we got some back and forth with them on Wardlow. We're getting Taven versus Wardlow on Rampage. That'll be fun. Just simple stuff, you know, back and forth, bit of bravado from both sides. I'm giving this an up anyway, because I just really like the Kingdom, and I'm glad they're in AEW. They seem like good people across the board. Talented group, you know, when they were in Ring of Honor, obviously, and that whole thing disappeared, and it was nice to see them show up. It's nice to hear that they're under multi-year contracts as well. I think they're three people who have a lot to offer any company they go into, and yes, I know AEW signs a lot of people, but I think that this trio is going to be really beneficial. Also, yes, there are valid points to raise 100% about the TNT title and the Ring of Honor Pure Championship, while Wardlow are a tag team, but they're huge and they're cool, and I like that, so it's an up. From there, Sammy Guevara, Bryan Danielson. You knew what this was going to be, right? You knew that they were going to play up on the contrast between these two human beings. It was going to be the guy you're really conditioned to like, the really skilled, technical, hard guy, Bryan Danielson, versus a piece of trash. A kayfabe piece of trash, of course, Sammy Guevara. He's a little weasel. He's got the facial expressions. He's the guy with the face, the Justin Bieber face that you want to see get slapped and messed up. And that's exactly what this match was. The psychology was all the way on point. Stylistically, obviously Danielson's more technical, he's rougher, hits a bit harder, he's going to out-wrestle Sammy Guevara, but Sammy Guevara is more agile, he's slippery, he's going to use diversionary tactics, and that's exactly what happened here. Bryan Danielson outclassed him as a technical wrestler, but Sammy, with his shock and awe, crafted openings. It was his high knee that gave him the advantage to start things off. Later, when it looked like Danielson was in control and we got to the outside, Sammy hit like this springboard moonsault to the outside, so his advantages came from freak athleticism, from things like the double springboard rope moonsault thing that he does that I don't know the name for but is really awesome. And bits and pieces like that. You wanted to see Bryan Danielson torture this guy in this match, and that's kind of what happened. When we get to the finish, you know, Sammy escapes from the LaBelle lock, and you wonder, oh no, is the bad guy gonna win? Is Wheeler Yuta gonna be proved right? But no. Danielson just inflicts chaotic, horrible punishment on this guy, puts him in the triangle, gets some elbows. Sammy passes out. It is a satisfying conclusion from a match that told the right story with hot action and good drama across the board. Strong character dynamic, good story, good psychology. I mean, what else do you want me to say? It's an up. Backstage next, it's Renee Paquette with Rey Fenix and Alex Abrahantes. They talk about Penta a little bit, but what we really get down to is that Rey Fenix wants a shot at the All-Atlantic Championship. Well, oh no, here walks Christian Cage with his right hand of destruction, Luchasaurus. They want a shot as well. In comes Orange Cassidy and he says, let's do it, friends. Looks like we're getting that freeway now. So here's what I want to talk about, the first down of the show actually, and I guess it's kind of a broader point. It is the interruptions in these backstage segments. Now, it's not necessarily something that I sit there every week and go, hey, this ruined the show. It's nothing like that. It's nothing to that extent. But these things, when they happen every single week, and they've happened multiple times on this show, you had the Soraya, Britt Baker segment earlier on as well, they lose their impact a little bit. When you go back to an interview and you kind of know that something like this is going to happen, it encourages you more to roll your eyes than invest in the story that's being told. So yep, it's pro wrestling. There are only so many ways you can do things. This kind of thing has been done for years and years and years. But in AEW, maybe we could limit them to like one every couple of weeks rather than one every couple of hours. I think that'd be a little bit more effective, but I guess it all depends on your enjoyment of the show. It's a down for me, however. Up next, Jamie Hayter versus Riho. And sometimes professional wrestling is just really simple. Really simple. You get people with very complementary styles. You put them in the ring against each other. You tell us that they don't like each other. And it's good. And that's kind of what happened here, man. I really loved this, actually. There was definitely a couple of moments where maybe a misstep here or whatever, but the thing with stuff like that, for me personally, is that if like a slight miscommunication or a mistime or whatever, if it doesn't hamper the flow for you, if it doesn't hamper your enjoyment, who cares? Who cares, man? When this thing connected, it's super connected. I mean, obviously there's the size and power discrepancy, and they played into that brilliantly. I mean, Riho sells Jamie Hayter's work like death. The backbreakers, the lariats, the ripcords, all of that stuff. And it's not like Jamie Hayter needs the help. She hits really, really hard, or at least gives the impression that she is hitting really, really hard. So it's just a great pairing. Like, Riho is really good at wrestling to her size. She's evasive, she's super quick, she's not hossing anyone. When she gets like a German suplex as she did here, it comes as a product of momentum rather than anything. She's not doing like Keith Lee stuff, man. She's not a big bruiser. She wrestles to her size and to her style, and when you're in there with someone like Jamie Hayter who does that on the opposite side of things and is a big hoss and is beefing you around, it's great. And this was really good fun. It concluded with Jamie Hayter getting the pinfall on Riho, which I didn't expect. I actually thought they were going to put Riho over, given she had the big comeback last week. But afterwards, Hayter's standing tall. She's got Britt with her. She's got Rebel with her. Toni Storm comes out holding the belt, suggesting that maybe we're going to get Jamie versus Toni one-on-one for the title. They will kick the hell out of each other. It'll be a great time. It'll be awesome. It'll be super. It'll be smashing. It'll be great. And yes, you can have conversations that are valid about the positioning of these matches and, you know, the death slot and all of that stuff. I think those are fine points to make. But I think in the past few months, man, they've really been leveling up, at least in the individual performance and the match quality. They've been going out there making the most of the time they have. Tony Storm's awesome. Britt Baker's awesome. Jamie Hayter's awesome. Riho's awesome. It's a really awesome crew of wrestlers they've got here. I don't know when, if ever, we're going to see the promised land where we can have 2 of these matches a week, maybe. But I'm going to acknowledge the improvement in the women's division. This is an up. Love the people involved. Good stuff. And also, Riho, she outdrew Steph Curry and LeBron James last week. It's definitely true. So this show's going to do 5 million viewers. Respect the draw. Couple of promos up next. We had Renee Paquette with Eddie Kingston, who's he's not in a good place, is Edward, at the moment. He's a little bit off. He's faking a smile. He's saying he's okay. He's talking about Jon Moxley's world title shot, and he's saying, good luck, John, but everyone else, leave me alone. Ties in to maybe why he didn't help Jon Moxley a little bit later on. And then we get Darby Allin, which straight up I'm giving an up to, because this was really good. It was a nice balance, I thought, between the kind of more obtuse stuff that Darby does in these vignettes with the music and the facades of opponents and masks on the ranch or whatever, and just a straight up wrestling promo. He had the music, he had the setting, he had like the grayscale and all of that stuff. He spoke really well, explained why Sting wasn't there, said he had a few things he needed to sort out, said he wanted to step away, but Sting said, no, you're the reason I came out of retirement, you're Darby Allin, by gosh. You can't do that, man. And then Jay Lethal, obviously we get him coming in with Satnam Singh and Sanjay Dutt. They have their promo. They reaffirmed that last week, you know, they trapped him under the door. Very painful, very nasty of them. Said that we've learned your biggest secret from someone. Darby's kind of goading them in. Come on, what you got, guys? And they are responding in kind. I'm giving this segment an up. It was really tasty across the board. I think they're going to have a good match. Jay Lethal is really good in that kind of heel who doesn't necessarily need to go over vibe, and Darby probably needs to start picking up some wins at this stage as well. He's you know, still very over, still very popular, still very entertaining, but it'd be nice to see him go on a little run. It's good stuff. And then we get to the main event, and it's Penta versus Jon Moxley for the AEW World Title. I mean, come on, like the build to this wasn't the most it kind of came out of nowhere. This was a bomb fest. This was all about 2 very hard, tough guys being very hard, tough guys and not wanting to go down. It was about hitting big bombs progressively until somebody could get up no longer. That's why they were going for the finishes really early on. That's why Penta went for the fear factor almost right away. It's why Moxley went for the paradigm shift, and it's why Penta went straight up into Jon Moxley's face with the Zero Miedo, all of that stuff. Jon Moxley just did that. It's rude doing that in a man's face. Jon Moxley, you little rascal. They were dropping hell all over the place. They were chopping each other up. They were dropping them on their heads. It was a good time. There's quite a bit to unpack here, though, so we'll get to it with the conclusion. But in the end, Jon Moxley wins. He hits a paradigm shift, and then the Death Rider version of that, the idea being that we've gone through all this hell, we've survived these bombs, I need to hit my finisher and my superized version of the finisher to put you away, otherwise you're going to just get back up. So that's the story of the match, I understand that. And look, I am giving the match itself an up. I thought this was a good match, but I'm also giving it down because, man, Pentagon and his in-ring offense. This has been a diminished thing that has happened over a while, and Cody obviously did it in his feud with Penta a while ago, but some of these bombs that he drops, and yes, I guess that this factored into the story of surviving finishers and kicking out and stuff, but the arm snap is just kind of nothing anymore. I mean, I just go back to the days when that meant instant death, particularly when he was in Lucha Underground and it was this big protected thing, and Moxley kicked out of a fear factor here as well, which is the package pile driver, which is just an awesome killer move, and I think it's a little bit of a shame. I think that Pentagon could benefit now, either from moving away from these moves, now that we've gotten to the point where they don't mean a whole lot and it's harder to take them seriously as match enders, or they need to be rehabilitated. I would like to see him go on a spree of just killing people with these things, if that's at all possible after the damage has been done, and if not, come up with something new. So I am giving that a supplementary down. Is it a nitpick, Eel? What do you reckon? Yeah, it's kind of a nitpick really, but it's where I'm at with it. But you know what did feel great was the post-match. You knew you were getting something, right? When NJF told the firm to stay the hell away, you knew some kind of development was coming later in the evening, and boy, did it arrive. The Firm invaded the ring, or all of them. Big Bill Morrissey, Lee Moriarty, the Guns, Ethan Page, everyone's there. And they just destroy these dudes who've just had this hard title match. Moxley, of course, they destroy John Moxley, which is specifically what MJF said not to do. They beat them down, they beat them up, they smack them around until MJF comes out, and boy is he conflicted because he wants Moxley at 110%. But the thing about MJF character-wise is that he's still a prick. So he's like, should I do it? Should I save this guy? He goes back and forth, and ultimately he opts to save him. He comes in the ring, he separates the Firm from John Moxley, and then he dies. Then he gets his ass beat by all of them. The Firm take control of the situation. They beat MJF up. It ultimately concludes in Big Bill Morrissey putting him through the table on the outside of the ring. Boom, boom, boom. Job done. MJF painted as a sympathetic figure in this angle, as he has been leaning into pretty much since he came back. So there's a lot of yeah, it's an up, obviously. But yes, there's a lot of interesting things to unpack here. I really enjoy Stokely Hathaway making a power move. I like him taking control of this situation and going, actually, MJF, I'm the chess master. You're not playing me, I'm going to play you. I like that because often in his AEW run, Stokely's kind of been like the secondary figure in his stories and alignments and associations and all of that stuff. So good stuff there for Big Stoke. A little advancement, but also the MJF alignment stuff is super interesting. I don't think this was a full-on face turn at all. I think they're playing into traits, and I think we're only a couple of weeks away from him doing something really dastardly and reminding you that he is indeed the devil. He was asking for devil worshippers on this show, wasn't he? That was an interesting move. A lot of Norwegian black metal or something going on there. But yeah, really great, layered, nuanced storytelling with fine details. The kind of stuff that you'll love to see from AEW at its best. So, unless my counting is completely wrong, I think we're on 10 ups and 2 downs. I'm a generous guy, I'm a positive guy, but I enjoyed the show. What did you guys think? Let us know down in the comments section below. Tell us what you thought, what you liked, what you didn't like. Have a nice conversation. Don't argue with each other. It's good when we all just get along, man. You'll love to see it. Follow us on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE. Follow me on Twitter at Andy H. Murray. I don't really know what the H stands for today. The H stands for hey. Actually, I forgot my espresso. Didn't need it. That's probably a good sign. But thank you on this experimental voyage. We'll see you soon. Me and the eel. Cheers.